Simon Pellymount, I'm a recovered addict. It's nice to be back at Ringwood. Just thinking now, it's probably been nearly 2 years since I've been here. It's my home group's now on a Thursday night, so I spend most of the Thursdays at my home group, so it's nice to be back. Just watching Alper, all the names in the guard hat. I used to sit here week on week resentful because I never got picked out. And then when I wanted to come and tell you that I was resentful, I never got picked out again. It was strange, that. Something else is in charge. I'm just going to try and give you a view of what it was like for me, what happened, and what it's like now. I like the effect produced by drinking drugs. I'm not one of these people that came in here saying that drugs was bad, because I love taking drugs and getting high. My story is that if the consequences hadn't got that bad for me, I probably would still be doing it. But that's not what happened for me. I'm a product of the rave scene, and I just love what it did for me for about 5 minutes, and quite quickly was a daily user. See, I went through life not knowing what I suffered with. I just knew that I was a little bit excessive in what I was doing. Everyone else seemed to go home on a Sunday and I didn't. After going out partying, and I seemed to start on a Wednesday before they started on Friday, and then obviously outgrowing those friends, and then finding more friends that were more like me, who like to use a bit more. I was with somebody. The big book describes it. I was with somebody at the time. We were in high school together, and we used drink for drink, line for line, pill for pill, whatever we took. Whatever I took, she took. But that's a lie. She had to take one more. She was a bit greedy, and in 1998 she got pregnant with my son, and she went to the doctors. The doctor gave her some stuff. She taped it off, and she was fine. Well, what happened was in 1998 was I went to the doctors. They gave me some stuff to taper off. I used it all in a day, right? And I carried on using, And from that point on in my story, prescription drugs became a massive part of my story. And I used prescription drugs, and I realised I could get whatever I could out of the doctor. My doctor became one of my biggest dealers, unknowingly. And fast forward, and 5 years later we had another child. That was going to fix me, and it didn't. And in 2007 I got to that point where, so I describe some of the feelings I had. I remember being sat in a room with my family and all my friends. It was like a family party or a barbecue. I was sat there in this room, and everybody else was having fun, and there was lots of love in the room, and I felt like the loneliest man in the world. Like I had no idea how to cope with that situation. I couldn't be with you guys. My skin didn't fit, and I was just uncomfortable, And the only way I knew how to rectify that was to drink and use, And what it did was it gave me this. I didn't know stuff like sense of ease and comfort before I came here, but what it did was it allowed me to function. 4 beers was usually perfect. When I got to that 4 beer stage, that's usually perfect, right? The issue was, I didn't know back then, was I had this thing inside me that once I drank the first one, it was never going to be 4 beers, and I was going to go way past that situation, and end up ruining the whole day, So I got to the point in 2007, where I couldn't be with it, and I couldn't be without it. And I remember being sat in front of a pile of gear, crying my eyes out, knowing what it was going to do to me. I mean, not even not knowing. I'd been doing this a long time, I knew what that was going to do to me, And I remember not being able to not do it, and still putting the first one inside me, And what I knew was going to happen happened, And what happened was, family had my partner had had enough, and she threw me out. And I was living in my company van. I was on long-term sick from work, and I still had a van. And I was living in the van. I was sneaking back into the house to clean up every now and again when she was in work. And one day the whole paranoia thing got me, and she's seeing someone else. We haven't been together for 2-3 months. I was seeing someone else, and I went to work. I smashed the house up, and I commenced to empty out the cupboard. She was one of these people that has half bottles of pills everywhere. She only ever took half a course, so there's always half bottles of pills everywhere. And I emptied all these pills out, and I just went at it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And I remember waking up saying, do I have to do this again? Every single day. It's just the grind, the whole, from the moment, not even with my eyes open, before my eyes open, get to that point where I just, my head's running before my eyes are open. I really have to do this one more day, and I tried to take that way out, and what happened was my dad found me about 5 hours later, rushed me to the hospital. I remember coming to, and my mum and my dad were like kind of either side of me, and they hadn't spoken for 30 years. I knew there was something wrong. I was in trouble. The hospital did what they did for me, because I'd been in and out of the hospital a few times, and and I was back at the family doctor's in a day or so, and my doctor had been prescribing for me for 30 years, and she just looked at me and went, I can't help you, there's nothing I can do for you. For the first time she probably said the thing she'd probably been wanting to say for a long time, and she said, maybe you should try one of those mental institutions, or I heard a treatment centre works. And not believing I wasn't insane, I thought I'd try the treatment centre thing. And I vaguely remember coming to on the M1, thinking, why am I in Luton? And then as I'm talking to, my sister was driving, and as I'm getting to this treatment centre, I remember making the phone call and packing and all that stuff. And I remember thinking, okay, well, it was 12 weeks. I'll get my stuff together, and I'll just do what I got to do, and I'll get back home. And I remember thinking, it's bound to be, spa and all that stuff. Paid quite a bit of money, and I remember pulling up next to this house that was leaning sideways, and it looked a bit like Faulty Towers. And I remember thinking, there's no swimming pool in there, right? And I walked through the door, and there was this girl screaming down she's screaming down the stairs, and somebody's chasing her down the stairs, and I thought I was in a mental institution. And a couple of things that treatment centre did for me. The day I walked in, they gave me one of these books. I had no idea what it was. I see Alcoholics Anonymous on the side, and thought, I'm not an alcoholic. And they pushed me into a group where somebody was doing, some kind of step work. I now know was step 3, and they introduced me to Cocaine Anonymous. I used to go to 6 meetings a week, 5 of them being CA. And I was so lucky that I was placed where I was, and I turned up here. It was my second day in recovery, and I walked through the door, and this guy came running up to me, and he said, I was one of the first ones there. Our group was always one of the first ones there for some reason, weird. And he came running up to me. He said, "Oh, you're new? Yeah, I'm Simon." He said, "Okay, great. Make the tea." I there's 70 people in this meeting. I'm making the tea, and he said, "No, make. It's a result. The tea guy relapsed." I'm thinking, how is that a result? Make the tea, and I make the tea there for a year at that meeting. And I went from not wanting to make the tea. Within about 3 weeks, I knew everybody's name. Within about 6 weeks, I got cream, sugar, semi-skimmed, and sweeteners, cakes, and no, sugar, don't go there, no, use spoons there. I'm running around with it, sweating like mad. See, you guys were insane, and the attraction you had, when I walked into the room, I felt it. Just the people running around, and the literature guy hasn't turned up, there's no literature, and I heard it again tonight, well, I've got a literature, and I fit right in, and I'm comfortable in that environment, but what I did in our treatment centre was, for 12 weeks, I did that, breaking the rules, not breaking the rules, breaking the rules. Because what happened was, I went there dying, and then I was given a little bit of time to relax. And the fire was removed from why I needed to be there. And the ego reasserted itself, and all of a sudden I'm okay again. You know, I look a bit better, you know, I got a bit of cash in the bank, you know, new pair of trainers, rock and roll. You know, and after 5 weeks, I'm peer support, and I'm really walking around like as if I own the place. You know, I have no idea what this recovery thing's about. You know, and what happened was, after 12 weeks, I graduated. My family turned up. We all sat on the stage. Everybody cried. It was one of those beautiful moments. You know, and as I'm coming off the stage, rubbing the tears off my eyes, the counsellors have dragged me to one side and said, "You're bang in trouble. You know, you're not going to make it." See, they were all recovered members of this fellowship. They knew what they were talking about. And he said, "You need to get your ass to a Cocaine Anonymous meeting tonight. You need to go find yourself a sponsor and get through the work quickly." You know, and so I said, "Yeah, I've been looking at this sponsor thing, and I'm not quite sure which way to go." And they said, "Well, just find somebody who got what you want." Okay, so I go in the room and I sit down. I'm looking around this room, sponsor, and this guy walks in, and he's been around from day one for me. You know, he's about 10 days cleaner than me, right? Which is fine if he'd been through the work and he was doing some stuff, but he wasn't. And he hugged all the women on the way in, you know, and he'd slept with her, and he'd slept with her, and and I wanted what he had, you know. And I asked him to sponsor me, you know, and he said yes. And for about a month, we used to tell each other this lie. I kind of muddled through some stuff in the treatment centre, and I used to do that. Yeah, I'm fine. What we'll do is I'll call you with inventory. And he'd say, "Yeah, that's fine." The issue was that the lie we were telling each other was, "I'm not going to call you because I'm not going to do inventory." And he was saying, "That's fine because I'm not going to answer the phone anyway." Right? So I used to do that. "I'll call you with inventory." And he'd go, yeah. And nothing ever happened. You know, and we used to meet each other. We went to a few meetings together, and we went to a couple of sober dances in London. And then we put on the first convention in Luton, and he came down from London. He was from London. He moved away from Luton, and he came down, and we spent the day together, and we stayed till the last two on the dance floor. 1,000 Red Bulls and all that stuff, and and I've had a full day of recovery and all these shares, and and I do that. "I'll call you with inventory," and he said, "Yeah, okay," and pepped up on Red Bull. I found page 86. How I found it, I have no idea. And I started muddling through what I believe was inventory. And I remember calling him that night with inventory, and he actually answered. And I said, I've got some inventory for you." And he said, "I can't take it. I'm in a crack house." So he'd left the convention we were at, and he'd gone straight to a crack house, like on his way home. And a couple of things happened for me that day. I realised the lots and lots and lots of meetings, putting on conventions and all that stuff was great and vital to my recovery, but on its own was no good. And the one person left that was buying my bullshit was gone. And what happened was I kind of went home that night. I woke up the next morning, and I kind of made that decision that this wasn't for me. Recovery wasn't for me. And I came home from work that night, and I parked the van up, and I left the van there, which everybody knows. Those who know me know I don't walk very far, right? And I left the van there, and I was going to use. And a guy I was in the treatment centre with came from around the corner and saw me about a mile away from the house, saying, "What are you doing down here?" And picked me up, took me home, and I had little idea. I had no idea back then God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Right, but the following day I ended up in a meeting in North London. I asked this guy to sponsor me, and he told me no. but what he said was he'd take me through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and if I chose to work with him afterwards on a sponsorship basis, he'd do that. And I was just desperate, and I said, "Please," I reached the jumping off place sober. I was 4 months sober. I got to that point in life where I didn't want to live anymore sober. Like everyone had been telling me it was the drink and the drugs that was the problem. I'm 4 months sober. I don't want to live anymore. I'm desperate. And this guy said, come to my house with your big book on Friday night. And I went to his house on a Friday night and we did some stuff. And in the first 3 steps, we didn't really open the big book. You know, he helped me identify, with his story coupled with what the first step says, with the illness. He explained some stuff about, once I put the first one in, I have very little control over the amount I take. Do I identify with that? Well, I can remember being 17 and going to a cash point when I had a cash card for one, and then going back a couple hours later for another one, and then standing at the cash point of 5 to 12, because I knew at 12 o'clock I was going to be able to draw more money out, and the dealer kept saying to me, take more, and I'm like, no, it's just the one. I only want the one. That was at 17, Fast forward the tape, it's still happening to me. But I can only rob this much money, I can only smash more piggy banks, I can only strangle my wife one more time, and all that stuff that goes on with that, for one more. The mental part of this illness I kind of struggle with, because I came here still believing I was in control. I chose to come here. This was, he helped me see what I was using against my will. I just told you about sitting in front of a pile of gear. I used against my will for a long, long time. I did all kinds of stuff to try and stop, even to the point where this one time, somebody told me I'm using too much. You should probably taper off a little bit. And I remember thinking, well, I'm buying it in big quantities. I'm gonna do it. So what I tried stashing it, can't stash it. So what I do, I'll post myself some parcels. And I remember posting myself a bit of gear, right? So I knew in 2 days' time it's coming back. The moment I've put it in the red box, I'm trying to grab it back out of there. I'm already on the phone calling him for tick, right? So I've tried all that stuff, and I tried everything, and I'm seeing that every day my thought pattern and the thought process around what I do is based around that. The constant thought of using it, and all that stuff. And the lie I keep telling myself was okay to go back to the first one, But the spiritual part of this illness, he explained about it being irritable, restless, and discontent, and he used words that I don't really use, And what I've come to realize since I've been here is my skin just didn't fit. I'm just not comfortable being me. I'm not okay being with you guys. I just don't feel right in certain situations. And the grass is always greener. So what I do is I go and pack up from here and I move over there where the grass is greener. I get there, it's not quite green. So I got to be somewhere else. And my life is littered with that prior to coming here. And I identified with that stuff. And then he asked me, talked about the concession of self. Being conceding to your innermost self, your addict. Coming from, I played rugby for years and years and years, and conceding is not something I'm used to. And when I looked up the word concede, one of the meanings means to finally admit that something is true. And what happened was I had that as a way of a feeling, and it came, and all the other feelings about all this God stuff and all that stuff I'd seen on the walls for the last 4 months kind of disappeared, because I realized that I had no other option but to do this stuff. This was the thing that I hadn't tried, and I had no option but to do it. And for me, I went through the step work in a couple of quick days. I did 1, 2, 3 on a Friday night. I went back to his house. I did 4, 5. I went home. I did 6, 7. I come back on a Sunday and give me instructions on 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then he gave me a month to do 50% of my amends process. I left his house with a list of defects like that and a list of amends like that. And I went at it. And what happened was, after a couple of weeks, I started, things were changing. I couldn't understand what it was. I started having this energy in my chest. I started to have this weird look on my face, which was supposedly a smile, right? and I'm walking around with my shoulders back, and I'm starting to feel comfortable. And I argued with my partner, and I didn't put my hands around her throat. That was new. And what was happening was I was starting to have a spiritual awakening. And I love this stuff. I went at this with a passion, and I lived in Luton for 2 years, and if you're over 90 days in Luton, you're an old timer, right? And And I was blessed to be placed in a position with a program in place that I was able to work with a lot of men, you know, and not all of them stayed clean through the process, but, you know, I did. And I continued to do that stuff, and I continued to work at this, you know. I've had the opportunity to travel with this stuff, you know, and I was able to go and be a part of a growing fellowship out in Canada, and that was phenomenal, you know. And I went out there with my family, but stuff happens to normal people as well as us, you know. And my relationship broke up, and I got divorced whilst I was in Canada, and I tried to stay out there for a little bit and, you know, put the pieces back together so I could come home to some work, and I met somebody else while I was out there, and most of you know who she is. And you know, she got pregnant really quickly, and I had to come home. My visa ran out. The work situation didn't pan out, and I came home, and we were doing this long distance relationship. And on the 13th of February, 4 years ago, Sarah called me and said, you know, they're going to break my waters. So I said, fine. I was already ready, planning the flight, and I booked the flight, and I'm off, and I'm there in 12 hours. I'm there, I'm ready. We're in the hospital, and on Valentine's Day, one of those days, you know, I proposed, you know, the whole thing. I proposed, and baby was born just before the end of Valentine's Day. It was perfect, you know. And 11 hours later, he passed away. You know. Now, I'd been running around with this book at that time for 4 years, saying there's no excuse to use drink or drugs, you know. And what I realised was there's no excuse to use drink or drugs, you know, because if I'm connected to that power. See, what happened was I went through a process where I went through the step work, and I was connected to that power. And since that time, I've continued to enhance on my spiritual well-being. And being connected to that power means I can do absolutely anything if my motives are correct, you know. And I've been able to do lots of stuff here. And at that time, I was connected to that power. And boy, the thought didn't even come to drink and use. I was trying to stay away from it. The thought did not enter my mind. You know, 2 days later, I'm in a meeting. Then 3 days later, I'm working with another guy. Because when stuff gets tough for me, this is what I know works. See, I can start looking around for other things to fix me, and I can start buying into the shit that's going on in my life. And we forget about this stuff. This is the only thing I've ever been able to do successfully. Why wouldn't I go back to that? You know, and that's what I did. And you know, we a little bit of a rough ride. You know, you guys are phenomenal. Do you know what? You know, Cocaine Anonymous is phenomenal. You loved us back into recovery. You know, you guys paid for the funeral, right? There was 150, 200 people at that funeral, and I kid you not, I never had two friends when I came in here. You know, it's unbelievable. You guys, I had flowers from all over the world. You guys rock. I came back here to the UK, and Sarah followed straight after them. You know, and I don't know, a couple minutes.
Quarter of an hour. 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. So we came back to the UK, and I was frequenting this meeting. But what had happened was I'd come back to this meeting. I'd come back here, and I hadn't done any work since I'd been back here. And I'm in these meetings telling everybody how to do it, how you should be doing your recovery, and I'm not doing anything myself. And I'm in these rooms dying and not knowing it. And somebody in this room, somebody who was in this room came up to me and just said, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "Well," he said, "You're dying and you're asleep to that fact, you know." And please help me, you know. And he did, and we did some work, and you know, and from that point, I've not let up on that, you know, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be connected to that power and have serious stuff come at me and not be effective. But I also know what it's like to go home and there's not enough ketchup for my burger, and I want to drink and die. You know, the complete polar opposites in recovery. You know, at 4 years clean, you know, 4.5 years clean, I'm sat on a bridge in Weymouth ready to jump off. Because I'm in here, I'm clean, you know, the spiritual maladies, you know, I'm not taking care of myself, and I want to die. come into these rooms telling you guys how to stay well. You know, I landed in Portsmouth, and I've been blessed to be a part of that fellowship down there. Got some phenomenal stuff going on down there, and it has been for the last 4.5 years, 5 years, and I love my life today. See, I do a bit of H&I work, and I was talking to somebody last night, and they were talking about the crazy insanity we come in with. That mind where you can't think of all the chaos that's going on. There's no way you can get out of it. And the biggest problem I've had this week is my green bin is not enough for all my recycling. That's insane from where I come from. Like, I have very little problems in my life today. That I live pretty much fear-free today, because we talk about being connected to this power, and then through my spiritual growth, I've been able to get complete and utter faith in that power. See, there's a difference between belief and faith. See, I know I'm going to be taken care of as long as I'm doing the right stuff. See, so all my financial insecurities have disappeared, and all these petty little things that I have disappeared, and all the fears dropped away. And because of the fears dropped away, I live. The big book promises a life beyond your wildest dreams. My wildest dreams I surpassed that a long time ago. See, today I live on what God's dreams are for me. See, his dreams are far greater than mine. I love this stuff. Today I'm able to do stuff. Doors are open for me everywhere, and I'm able to walk through because I have very little fear. Fear is one of the biggest parts of bondage, which we deal with in the third step. And when I get tied to my fear, I'm stuck. There's nowhere I can go. I'm tied. And today, because of that, I live a pretty phenomenal life. Like, I have relationships with people in these rooms like I couldn't have with my family. Like, I love this stuff. I mean, with a passion. We talk a lot about gratitude, and we do a lot of gratitude lists, and I'm not one for gratitude lists. I'm not knocking it. It's great. But gratitude for me is action. And I stay in gratitude two ways. I stay in gratitude to Cocaine Anonymous for when they ask me to do something, I do it. And I stay in gratitude to God for keeping me clean. I stay in gratitude that way, but every time I'm able to serve, I do. One quick little thing. I left this big book in a detox centre 2 years ago, and the detox centre's just closed down. And it came back to me. How I ended up back with me, I have no idea. And it came to the H&I meeting, and they gave it back to me. It's funny, and there's a little pamphlet inside there marking a page, and whoever was reading has underlined this. I'll finish with this. It says, to be vital, faith must be accomplished by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. Faith without works is dead, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.